Built to Rise: Success Principles for Melanated People and People of African Descent, written by Langston E. Hughes. Chapter 1: The Power to Name Yourself. You cannot fully build a life from an identity someone else assigned to you. Every success system begins with a first principle. Some begin with money. Some begin with discipline. Some begin with desire, talent, opportunity, or hard work. All of those matter, but for melanated people and people of African descent, there is a deeper beginning. Success begins with self-definition. Before you can decide what you want, you must know who is doing the wanting. Before you can build wealth, you must know who the wealth is for. Before you can lead a family, a business, a classroom, a ministry, a movement, or a community, you must know what truth you are standing in. A person who has not claimed the authority to define themselves will often spend their life reacting to definitions placed on them by others. That is not a small matter. Names shape expectations. Labels shape treatment. Descriptions shape the imagination. If a person is described as a problem often enough, they may begin to shrink their vision to the size of survival. If a family is described only through struggle, the children may never hear enough language about genius, discipline, beauty, invention, and inheritance. If a people are trained to see themselves mainly through pain, they may forget that pain is not their origin. This chapter is about reclaiming the power to name yourself, not as decoration, not as a trend, not as a slogan, as a law of success. The first ownership is usually discussed in terms of land, homes, businesses, stocks, copyrights, or money. Those forms of ownership matter. A people who do not own assets will be forced to rent too much of their future from other people. But before visible ownership, there is invisible ownership. You must own your mind. You must own your story. You must own your name. When a person does not own their story, they can be rich and still insecure. They can be educated and still ashamed. They can be employed and still spiritually homeless. They can know how to perform in every room except the room of their own soul. Self-definition is the first ownership because everything else grows from it. A person who sees themselves as powerless will treat opportunity differently from a person who sees themselves as chosen for responsibility. A person who sees their ancestry as a burden will make different decisions from a person who sees their ancestry as a treasury of lessons, endurance, and intelligence. A person who believes they must be accepted before they can begin will move differently from a person who knows they are already authorized to build. This does not mean arrogance. Arrogance is often insecurity wearing loud clothes. Self-definition is quieter and stronger. It is the settled knowledge that no outside institution, insult, trend, form, or opinion has final authority over your identity. When you name yourself, you are not denying history. You are refusing to let injury be the whole story. Why language matters: words are not everything, but they are not nothing. A word can open a door in the mind. A word can also close one. A child who hears, "You come from greatness," receives a different assignment from a child who hears only, "The world is against you." Both statements may contain pieces of reality, but they produce different postures. One posture says, "Be careful, stay small, expect harm." The other says, "Be aware, stand tall, prepare to build." Melanated people and people of African descent have often had to live inside language created by systems that did not intend to honor us. The names used for us have changed across time, law, politics, and public fashion. Some terms were imposed. Some were adopted. Some were resisted. Some were redefined from the inside. The point here is not to tell every reader what term they must personally use. The point is to insist that the authority to define us should not belong to systems that reduce us. This book uses melanated people, people of African descent, African-descended people, and the African diaspora because these terms point toward ancestry, embodiment, geography, memory, and global connection. They are not perfect terms. No single phrase can carry the full complexity of a people spread across continents, languages, cultures, and histories, but they help move the conversation away from emptiness and toward origin. Origin matters. If you do not know your origin, other people can sell you a false beginning. If you do not know your value, other people can rent you a discounted identity. If you do not know your ancestors built, studied, farmed, navigated, healed, governed, created, traded, sang, prayed, resisted, and invented, then you may mistake oppression for your starting point. Oppression is part of the story. It is not the first page. The difference between reaction and definition: many people live by reaction. They react to what society says they are. They react to what their family failed to give them. They react to what the school system expected from them. They react to what the job market rewards. They react to what social media praises. They react to the fears of their parents, the wounds of their neighborhood, the opinions of strangers, and the silent pressure to prove they deserve basic respect. Reaction can be understandable. Sometimes it is necessary. If a door closes unfairly, you respond. If a system creates barriers, you adapt. If someone disrespects your humanity, you protect your dignity. But a life built only on reaction becomes exhausting. You are always answering someone else's question. You are always playing defense in someone else's game. Definition is different. Definition says, before I respond to the world, I will decide what I am building. Definition says, before I answer an insult, I will remember my assignment. Definition says, before I chase approval, I will clarify my standard. Definition says, before I accept a limitation, I will examine who benefits from me believing it. A person who defines themselves still faces pressure, but pressure no longer becomes identity. They may experience racism, rejection, debt, family struggle, grief, or delay, but none of those conditions gets to become their name. That difference is the beginning of power. A real-world example. Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker was born Sarah Breedlove in 1867, the daughter of formerly enslaved parents. She experienced poverty, loss, and limited formal education. By the logic of her environment, she was not supposed to become one of the most important entrepreneurs in American history. Yet she built a hair care enterprise that served women of African descent and created economic opportunity for thousands of sales agents. Her story is not powerful only because she made money. It is powerful because she recognized a need inside her own community and built from that recognition. She did not wait for the dominant marketplace to decide that the beauty, dignity, and care of African-descended women mattered. She turned lived experience into enterprise. She turned a problem into a product. She turned a product into a system. She turned a system into opportunity for others. That is self-definition in business form. She did not merely ask, "Where can I fit?" She asked by her actions, "What can I build from who we are?" There is a lesson here for the modern reader. Many people search for opportunity by trying to disappear into existing markets. They ask, "How can I be accepted?" But some of the greatest opportunities come from looking honestly at the needs, frustrations, beauty, habits, pain points, and aspirations of your own people. What do melanated families need that is not being built well enough? What do African-descended professionals need that no one is serving with seriousness? What do our children need to learn? What do our elders need protected? What do our communities buy every month that we could produce, distribute, repair, teach, improve, or own? Self-definition is not only psychological, it is economic. When you know who you are, you can see markets that others overlook. You can solve problems with cultural intelligence. You can create value from closeness instead of distance. The assigned self and the chosen self. Every person carries two selves. The assigned self is the version shaped by other people's expectations. It is built from comments, wounds, labels, family patterns, school experiences, media images, social categories, economic limits, and repeated messages. The chosen self is the version you discipline into existence. Assigned self may say, "People like me do not do that. I am already too late. Money never stays with us. I cannot trust anyone. I need permission before I move. I should be grateful for whatever I get. If I fail, it proves I was never enough." The chosen self answers, "I come from people who endured and created. I can begin with what I have. Money can be learned, organized, protected, and multiplied. Trust requires wisdom, but isolation is not a strategy. I can move with preparation instead of permission. Gratitude require me to accept smallness. Failure is information, not identity." The chosen self does not appear automatically. You build it through language, repetition, action, environment, and evidence. This is why affirmations alone are not enough. Speaking life is powerful, but the words must be joined with proof. If you say, "I am disciplined," then keep one promise today. If you say, "I am building wealth," then track your spending. If you say, "I am a leader," then serve someone without needing applause. If you say, "I honor my ancestry," then learn something true about it and let that knowledge change how you move. The mind believes what it repeatedly sees you do. Household language: a community changes when household language changes. Many families pass down warnings because warnings feel like protection. Do not get your hopes up. Do not trust people. Keep your head down. Just get a good job. Do not tell people your business. Money is hard to get. Rich people are crooked. People will always try to take from you. Some of these warnings were born from real experience. They may have helped someone survive a dangerous period. We should not mock our elders for speaking from the world they knew. Many were trying to protect children with the tools available to them. But survival language becomes dangerous when it is never updated. A family that only teaches caution may produce children who do not know how to take wise risks. A family that only teaches employment may not produce owners. A family that only teaches secrecy may struggle to build healthy partnerships. A family that only talks about bills may never learn to talk about assets. A family that only discusses struggle may unintentionally train the next generation to expect struggle as normal. This is not about pretending life is easy. It is about widening the language. Instead of only saying, "Be careful," also say, "Be prepared." Instead of only saying, "Do not waste money," also say, "Learn how money grows." Instead of only saying, "Get a job," also say, "Develop skills that give you options." Instead of only saying, "The world is unfair," also say, "So we must be organized." Instead of only saying, "Do not forget where you came from," also say, "Build something worthy of where you came from." Household language becomes family culture. Family culture becomes behavior. Behavior becomes outcomes. If you want a different outcome, begin by changing what is repeatedly spoken in the rooms where you have influence. Real-world example. The Greenwood District in the early 20th century, the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, became one of the most widely remembered examples of African-descended enterprise in the United States. Entrepreneurs, professionals, families, and institutions built a thriving local economy that included shops, newspapers, hotels, medical offices, theaters, and community organizations. The lesson is not that every community can or should copy Greenwood exactly. The conditions of time, law, land, segregation, migration, and local economics were specific. The lesson is that organized identity can become organized economics. Greenwood was not built by people waiting to be fully welcomed into every outside institution. It grew because people created internal systems of exchange, trust, service, and ownership. They spent with one another. They served one another. They built institutions that reflected their own needs. That history also carries grief because the district was violently attacked and lives and property were destroyed. But even that tragedy cannot erase the evidence that such organization was possible. It stands as both a warning and a blueprint. The warning, prosperity without protection can be vulnerable. The blueprint, identity, ownership, skill, and community exchange can create power. For the modern reader, the question is not simply, can we rebuild a place like that? The deeper question is, what version of organized economic life is possible now? Could 5 families form an investment circle? Could 10 professionals create a scholarship fund? Could a church, mosque, temple, or community organization support business development instead of only hosting events? Could a group of parents create a weekend academy for children? Could local consumers commit to circulating a portion of their spending through businesses owned by people of African descent? Could digital tools help build what geography once held together? The answers will not be found in nostalgia. They will be found in organization. The mirror exercise. At some point, every person serious about success must face the mirror without performance, not the mirror used for appearance, the inner mirror. Ask yourself, who taught me who I am? Do I agree with them? What labels have I been carrying that I never consciously chose? What has my family survived that I have mistaken for normal? What strengths did my ancestors have to develop for me to be here? What story about money did I inherit? What story about love did I inherit? What story about leadership did I inherit? What story about my people did I inherit? Which of those stories still serve my future, which must be thanked for their survival value and then retired? This kind of questioning is not weakness. It is internal leadership. You cannot lead what you refuse to examine. You cannot heal what you keep calling personality. You cannot change what you keep protecting out of habit. Self-definition requires honesty. It is not enough to say, I am great, while refusing to confront the patterns that keep shrinking your life. Greatness is not flattery. It is responsibility. If you define yourself as a builder, then you must build. If you define yourself as disciplined, then you must practice discipline. If you define yourself as a person of faith, then you must act with trust and obedience. If you define yourself as a wealth builder, then your calendar, bank account, conversations, and habits must begin to show evidence. Identity without evidence becomes fantasy. Evidence without identity becomes labor without meaning. The goal is to bring both together. Naming your assignment. Self-definition is not only about what you call yourself. It is also about what you understand yourself to be responsible for. Every person does not have the same assignment. Some are called to teach, some to build businesses, some to raise children with unusual intention, some to heal bodies, some to protect communities, some to create art, some to manage money, some to farm land, some to write policy, some to tell stories, some to organize people, some to invent tools, some to preserve history, some to create safe spaces, some to master trades, some to build technology, some to serve quietly in ways that never become famous but still change lives. Your assignment does not have to impress everyone. It has to be true enough to organize your life. A person without an assignment is easy to distract. Every opportunity looks equal. Every criticism feels personal. Every trend looks urgent. Every delay feels like rejection. But a person with an assignment can evaluate life differently. Does this relationship support the assignment? Does this habit strengthen or weaken the assignment? Does this purchase move me closer or farther away? Does this environment feed my mind or drain it? Does this opportunity align with the person I am becoming? Your assignment becomes a filter. This is one of the reasons self-definition matters so deeply for people of African descent. Many of us are carrying family needs, community needs, spiritual questions, financial pressure, ancestral memory, and modern ambition all at once. Without a clear definition, We may become overextended trying to respond to everything. You cannot do everything, but you can do your part with seriousness. Practical application. The identity statement. A vague identity creates vague behavior. A clear identity creates a standard. Take time to write an identity statement. This is not a social media bio. It is not written for applause. It is a private declaration of who you choose to be and what you are building. Use this structure. I am a person of African descent with the responsibility to. I come from people who. I am no longer available for. I am developing the discipline to. I will use my gifts to. My success will serve. Here is an example. I am a person of African descent with the responsibility to build stability, wisdom, and opportunity in my family. I come from people who endured pressure and still created life, music, faith, food, language, and community. I am no longer available for small thinking, financial disorder, or relationships that mock my growth. I am developing the discipline to master my craft, manage my money, protect my health, and speak with purpose. I will use my gifts to create income, teach what I learn, and support institutions that strengthen our people. My success will serve my household, my community, and the generations coming after me. Do not rush this. Write it by hand if possible. Read it aloud every morning for 7 days. Then ask a hard question. What part of my current life disagrees with this statement? That question is where the work begins. Practical application. Retiring old labels. Make 2 lists. On the first list, write the labels, phrases, fears, or assumptions you inherited but no longer choose to obey. These may have come from family, school, religion, poverty, media, relationships, or your own past mistakes. Examples: I am bad with money. People in my family do not succeed. I always start but never finish. I am too old to begin. I am not educated enough. I have to do everything alone. Rest is laziness. Success means abandoning people. I cannot be myself and be respected. On the second list, write the replacement truth and the replacement behavior. Old label: I am bad with money. Replacement truth: I can learn money management one decision at a time. Replacement behavior: I will review my spending every Sunday and save before I spend. Old label: I always start but never finish. Replacement truth: I can become a finisher by reducing the size of my commitments and completing them. Replacement behavior: I will choose one project and complete one measurable step every day for 30 days. Old label: I have to do everything alone. Replacement truth: wise partnership is a skill I learn. Replacement behavior: will identify through serious people and begin building healthier accountability. This exercise works because it connects identity to behavior. A new name must be paired with a new practice. Real-world example: independent education across generations. People of African descent have created schools, study groups, freedom schools, cultural programs, Sunday schools, reading circles, rites of passage programs, and homeschool networks when existing systems failed to fully nourish their children. The point was never only academic instruction. It was identity formation. Children needed to learn mathematics, reading, science, history, and writing, but they also needed to see themselves as capable minds. They needed to know that intelligence did not belong to one people. They needed to see images, stories, teachers, books, and standards that affirmed their full humanity. This is self-definition at the institutional level. Whenever a community says, "Our children must know who they are," it is practicing the first law of success. A child who learns identity and excellence together has a stronger foundation than a child who is trained to achieve while quietly feeling inferior. The same principle applies to adults. Adults need re-education too. Many grown people are still trying to succeed with an identity shaped by environments that underestimated them. They attend seminars, read books, start businesses, and make vision boards, But underneath the activity is an old question. Am I really worthy of this? Self-definition answers that question with responsibility. Yes, you are worthy. Now build like it. The danger of performance identity, one trap must be named clearly. Self-definition is not performance. In the age of constant visibility, many people confuse image with identity. They post confidence but do not practice discipline. They speak of wealth but do not study money. They speak of culture but do not serve people. They speak of healing but avoid accountability. They speak of leadership but cannot be corrected. They speak of spirituality but mistreat those closest to them. Performance identity is exhausting because it depends on being seen. True identity can work in private. If no one applauds, you still read. If no one likes the post, you still save. If no one invites you, you still build. If no one understands yet, you still practice. If no one validates the assignment, you still prepare. The goal is not to look powerful. The goal is to become organized, useful, disciplined, healthy, skilled, and spiritually rooted. People of African descent do not need more performance without structure. We need more builders. We need more finishers. We need more owners. We need more healers. We need more people who can be trusted with responsibility when nobody is filming. The standard: once you define yourself, you must create a standard. A standard is a line your behavior must learn to respect. It says, "This is how I move now." It does not mean you become perfect. It means you stop negotiating with every impulse, every distraction, every fear, and every invitation back into smallness. Your standard may begin with simple commitments. I do not speak death over my future. I do not mock my own people for entertainment. I do not spend money unconsciously. I do not call chaos normal. I do not confuse attention with love. I do not let fear make all my decisions. I do not abandon my health to chase success. I do not enter partnerships without clarity. I do not wait for permission to improve. I do not let old labels govern new seasons. These standards are not restrictions. They are protection. A life without standards leaks energy. A family without standards repeats confusion. A community without standards becomes easy to manipulate. Standards turn identity into structure. This week's work, this chapter, is not complete until it becomes action. Set aside 1 hour this week and complete the following. Write your identity statement using the provided structure. Make a list of 5 old labels or inherited beliefs you are retiring. For each old label, write 1 replacement truth and 1 replacement behavior. Choose 1 household phrase you will stop repeating. Choose 1 new phrase you will begin speaking around your family, children, friends, or community. Identify 1 area of life where you have been reacting instead of defining. Take 1 visible action that proves your chosen identity. Do not try to transform everything in 1 week. Choose evidence over emotion. 1 completed action is stronger than 10 dramatic declarations. Declaration: I claim the authority to define myself with dignity, truth, and responsibility. I am not limited to the labels placed on me by systems, strangers, fear, or old survival patterns. I come from people of strength, creativity, endurance, intelligence, and spirit. I will not reduce my ancestry to pain or my future to reaction. I choose language that builds. I choose standards that protect my purpose. I choose actions that prove who I say I am. Closing thought: the first law of melanated success is this: name yourself before the world names you. If you do not, you may spend your life trying to succeed as someone you were never meant to be. But when you claim the power to define yourself, you recover the beginning of freedom. You stop asking only, "What can I get?" and begin asking, "Who must I become? What must I build? And who will rise because I was disciplined enough to answer my assignment?" That is where success begins.